In recent days, Sayadaw has been discussing the causal qualities and the resultant qualities of a good spiritual friend, as much as possible in the time there is. This is a subject that could be discussed over many days if one were to go into it in detail. If one knows these qualities, then it's easy to make a choice when one is searching for a meditation teacher. If one doesn't choose a meditation teacher based on the qualities of a good spiritual friend, one will go to one teacher and do some practice, but not really effectively, if one doesn't choose the right teacher. And not being able to reach a satisfactory point, one then goes to another teacher and tries something else. But also, because the teacher is not fulfilled with the qualities, they can't reach a satisfactory stage through following that teacher. And then they go to another. They think, oh, this one will be good or that one will be good. But they don't have any hard guidelines for selecting the teacher. So choosing wrongly, they aren't able to reach the goal of the practice. And what they do instead, people do instead, is just they take notes about what this teacher says and what that teacher says. And then they teach based on their notes. So without sufficient practical experience and without enough study, then it's not possible to teach effectively. One won't be fulfilled with the qualities, the causal qualities, or the resultant qualities of a good spiritual friend. And such teachers, if problems arise for their students, they're not able to fix those problems, and therefore the yogis who follow such notebook teachers become disheartened. So in undertaking this high-level practice of meditation, one must know the causal qualities and resultant qualities of a good teacher, a good spiritual friend, and search for a teacher based on those qualities. And the Buddha said, Yatha bhutang jnanaya saddha paryesitabo. That means that if one should choose a teacher who is fulfilled with knowledge, true knowledge, who has gained knowledge correctly. And if we do not have such a teacher, we have to find one. We should look for one. It's very important not to choose a wrong teacher. Sayadaw has a term for those who go from teacher to teacher, taking notes and then based on this teaching others how to meditate. He calls them notebook teachers, notebook meditation teachers. However, there's one thing he wants to point out. If one practices according to the instructions of the Buddha, practices carefully, and to the extent that one practices, gains true knowledge, then beginning with those who are closest to one's immediate surrounding, friends and family, one can instruct them based on what one knows through one's own practice. Not as a meditation teacher, but as a Dhamma friend. And in this way one can spread the Dhamma based on practice that is done according to the Buddha's instruction. There are two parts to practicing the Dhamma. One is the system, the exact instructions for gaining happiness, what we should do to gain happiness, and this is, we call this Dhamma. So if we practice according to the method, according to the system, the method of instruction, we must also follow the rules. So the Buddha pointed out the path, and we have to walk along that path, but we also need to follow the rules that are involved, like following laws. And these are basically what to avoid. So one half of it is what to do and the other half is what to avoid. One has to know the system, the method, and one has to work in a disciplined way. And this is what's called Dhamma Vinaya. Because we follow the path or the method, then we get benefits. And because we follow the rules, we don't break the rules, then we don't get bad results. So one who's going to practice needs to know both the method and the rules. We also need to receive instruction. We need to listen with the intention of gaining a good grip on what we're being instructed to do, what we should do and what we should avoid. There are various aspects, there are various methods that one needs to listen to. And we need to, I forget the word I had in mind, but we need to grasp these things that we hear firmly. And part of doing this is, this receiving instruction is what we all are doing here when we come to the Dhamma talk. And we listen to talks that are based on theory and practice. This is a place where we're receiving instruction. And by this, we come into possession of the method. So we have to have this firmly taking what we hear to heart. Sadhukang manasikara. For example, we need to listen to how to practice sila, the method for avoiding transgressive kilesas, how to practice samadhi in order to prevent and cure kilesas that arise, and how to develop panya so that we can uproot the kilesas. So we listen to the method, taking it in firmly so that we can apply what we hear. Okay, there's another aspect to our learning, which is to copy what others do. We should copy the method that we see other people following. So, only if they're doing something good. So we see how other people are behaving, and if it's something good, you copy it. And doing this, when you look at what a good yogi is doing, then you can understand something about how to behave as a yogi, how to follow the rules. And Sayadaw said that an example of this is that when we're driving a car along the road, the car is the most important thing. Okay, Sayadaw gave the example of a car. Now, people who own a car or have owned a car and know how to drive, they will understand probably about this. If we're going to drive a car, we need to know basic things about the car. We need to know how to fill the tank. We need to know how to start the car. And when we start the car, first we start out, if it's not an automatic transmission, then we've got to start out in low gear and go slowly, gradually increase the gear as our speed increases. And of course, it's important to know how to steer. So we need to know how the car operates, and we also need to know the rules of the road. For example, we should stay to the right if we're going slow, if in the U.S., for example. And when we are going around a curve, sharp curve, we should reduce our speed. And when we come to an intersection where there's a light, if the light is green, it's okay to go ahead. If it's yellow, proceed with caution. And if it's red, we should come to a stop. So when we know how the car works and we also can drive according to the rules, we can be free of accidents. However, sometimes it happens that even if one is in the right, one can be hit by a driver who is in the wrong. that sometimes happens. Satipatthana practice is like driving a car. One has to know the method, and one has to know the rules of the road, so to speak. And when one knows these things, one can drive one's own car to reach the destination safely. At present time, we have human culture. Human culture means, basic humanity. Not to harm others. One controls one's behavior. And Buddha gave us a system for controlling our behavior. He taught us a way to control our behavior. And that way or system is morality, sila. And we've heard all about this by now. When we control our bodily and verbal behavior, we still need to control the mind. We need to protect our mind. And by noting, by doing the Satipatthana practice, we protect our mind and we get rid of kilesas if they arise. And we've also heard about how to do this. And based on that, knowledge develops in stages. And we're able to suppress the latent kilesas by Vipassana knowledge. And eventually we can uproot the kilesas completely, the latent kilesas, by developing path knowledge. And also the Buddha gave a complete method for doing this, to which we've listened to. And if we walk straight along this path that the Buddha has pointed out, we need to do so respectfully and patiently. And we need to do it steadily. Keep on going forward steadily, not stopping and starting here and there. Now, at this place, we have rules. There are rules that have been established, but some yogis do not follow the rules. When they're going from place to place, they look here, they look there. They don't control their eyes. So this destroys one's samadhi. So in order to have samadhi, we need to keep, when we walk from one place to another, we need to put our attention on the left foot when we make a step, so that the mindfulness sticks to the foot. And when we take a step with the right foot, we need to have our mind there, so that the mindfulness sticks. And step by step, we have to move each time applying mindfulness. So it seems like there's little respect. That comment was made. There's little respect here. So by this time in the retreat, we know the method. We know the method of practice. And knowing that if we follow the rules, if yogis follow the rules, then they can progress significantly in just a few days. So it's important to follow the rules patiently. If we do this, knowing the method, we apply the method following the rules, then one's physical, verbal, and mental behavior will be free of fault. And we will gain what is fulfillment of culture, you might say, fulfillment of culture. By this, he doesn't mean, there's another meaning of culture. He doesn't mean that. Sayadaw means that one's physical, verbal, and mental behaviors, one's individual behaviors, become refined and cultured and clean. So in order to gain this type of fulfillment of culture or fulfillment of humanity, then one needs to have two factors. One needs to listen respectfully, sadhukang sawana. We'll listen respectfully when getting instructions, and one needs to also take them to heart and apply them, sadhukang manasikara. That means to take them well to heart. If we do both those things, then this fulfillment of culture will sasana sampatti, which is important for everyone to have, will just develop naturally. More than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha lived, and this can be considered to be the height of Buddhism, the highest period. Because the Buddha himself, when he taught, he did so very exactly and very effectively. First of all, he had omniscient knowledge, and he could evaluate the listener. He knew what a person's character was, and he knew what Dhamma to teach that person so that they would be able to realize the truth of the Dhamma. So this is how he was able to teach people. Now, what we have is the Dhamma Vinaya, which represents the Buddha at the present day. Dhamma is the method for gaining happiness. And if we use it, we need to use it according to rules, and these rules are the Vinaya. So Dhamma and Vinaya together are the Sasana, are the teaching or the dispensation of the Buddha. If we study and then practice based on our study, if we learn and then practice based on what we know, then in doing the practice of sila, the sila sasana is alive. And also, when we practice and gain samadhi, our mind is clean, and we develop knowledge progressively. So the three trainings are active, and the Dhamma is alive in this way. This is called the sasana, or the dispensation of the Buddha. And this is what exists in us individually. If it does, if we keep the sasana alive in ourselves through our practice of the three trainings, then the sasana is kept alive, even though it's been a long time since the life of the Buddha. And this is what is referred to as the living Buddha. Sayadaw is teaching according to what the Buddha taught, as elaborated and taught by the Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw. And in doing so, he's dispensing the Dhamma and trying to keep the living Buddha alive. If those who have come here now practice and gain the three trainings, then the Dhamma Vinaya is alive in these people, in all of us. And the living Buddha is really alive. And we will realize this for ourselves in our practice. Those who are now practicing the Satipatthana practice and have come to the point where their practice is fulfilled, such people are building in their own hearts a true pagoda, a true Dhammaceti. In this country, Buddhists revere pagodas and physical pagodas. They go and pay respects to them, and they offer physical things. Of course, if we have faith, if we are doing this reverentially, it's kusala, it's a good deed. But it's not enough to bring about liberation from samsara. Here we are now constructing, each of us who practice are now constructing a Dhammaceti, a pagoda in our hearts. This is one that uses no materials. It's done with our minds, and it's a Dhammaceti within which we can house the Buddha. So Sayadaw recited some Pali that I didn't catch all of, but the Pali said that the Buddha, together with his disciples, have passed away to the point of no return, because for them there was no rebirth. Although they've passed away, what is left behind is the Dhamma Zeti, the stupa of the Dhamma. And what is that? That's the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, which we can know, the truth of the cause, the truth of the cessation of suffering and its cause, and the way, the truth of the way to the cessation of suffering and its cause. And also the 37 factors of enlightenment, within which the four foundations of mindfulness are contained. Now, these are like a flag on the pagoda. When we practice the four foundations of mindfulness, when we practice Satipatthana, all 37 factors of enlightenment will arise. So with Satipatthana meditation, we know the truth of suffering when we note, and we dispel its cause. Later, we'll come to know the two supramundane truths of cessation and the path. This is the true Dhamma, and one who practices to fulfillment will be satisfied. When we practice Satipatthana, we are paying respects to the Buddha with the three trainings. And this is real veneration of the Buddha. It's not done physically. It's not done by making physical offerings. It's done with this high-level Dhamma. With our practice is the best way to venerate the Buddha. So if we listen carefully and respectfully and taking it to heart, to the Dhamma, and then practice according to what we know and develop knowledge, then in every second we are venerating the Buddha with the practice. In every minute there will be 60 moments of veneration, and in every hour 3,600 moments of veneration. Sayadaw would like to urge the yogis by saying, please understand that this work that we're doing is the most valuable work. Please be steady, patient, and respectful in your practice. That's all for today.